Okay, so I'm going to be demonstrating a elongated stitch. It's a crisscross stitch. In this particular case, it's a multiple of 8 stitches plus 2. You will always knit the first stitch and the last stitch of the row, and then the stitches in between will do your pattern for this particular elongated stitch. So you begin by knitting 1, and I'll do the standard method here. For your next stitch, you're going to insert as if to knit. You're going to wrap 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to pull all 4 of those wraps through the stitch and knit off. We're going to do that all the way across. 1, 2, 3, 4 wraps. Pull them through the stitch and continue across the row in that manner. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Again, pull through the stitch and complete. Okay, so we now have a multitude of stitches. We did the wraps all the way across the row and knitted the last stitch. Now we're going to begin by knitting the first stitch. I can get my hands together here. And now we're going to undo the wraps as we come to them, except for the beginning. So if you look at your stitch and you put your needle in purlwise to right above the stitch, you'll see you have a stitch here and one of the first wraps. You're simply going to pull off and you're going to have an elongated stitch. So there's one. Grab the next one. There's 2. There's 3 and 4. 5, 6, 7, and 8. So now you have 8 stitches. This first stitch over at the edge, that was your knit stitch. It also is going to elongate, but it is not included in what we're going to do next. You're going to take the left hand needle, you're going to come in from the front, and you're going to grab the first 4 stitches. You're going to pull them over the top of the second 4 stitches, like so. And we also want to make sure that we keep those stitches from getting curved or anything, so that they are in the order they're supposed to be. Okay, so now we have all the stitches aligned properly. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and you basically pulled one over the other. We're going to take these 4 stitches, put them back onto the left needle. Everything is in order, and now we're simply going to knit these 4 stitches, or the 8 stitches rather, off one at a time. And it's a little awkward because you are going through these big long stitches, but knit off all 8 stitches. Okay, and when you get done, you now have crisscrossed elongated stitches. Okay, we're going to do that one more time for the next group of 8. So you just put your needle in right above the stitch, pull off those wraps. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Make sure you don't pull off the last knit stitch. Okay, now we have our 8 stitches. We're going to take the left hand needle. We're going to come in to the front of those 4 stitches, and we are going to pull those 4 stitches over the top of the second 4 stitches. And again, we have that crisscross, like so. Take the group here and put them back on. Okay, so now we're going to do the second group of stitches and knit them off. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I reverted to continental stitch because I'm much more comfortable doing it that way, but let's go back and then we'll do the second 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now we have your second group. Just give it a nice little tug, and then you're going to knit the very end stitch of the row. So depending on what your pattern calls for, you get this nice crisscross. Your next row, you're simply going to knit all the way across the row, and that's going to set your stitches, and you just continue on with your pattern. I hope that will help you in doing these elongated stitches, especially for the crisscross method. It is definitely an awkward stitch to do at first, but you will get used to it. Usually there are 2 to 4 rows of garter stitch. That includes that first row of knitting in between. But it makes for an interesting fabric for a sweater or a scarf, or even in a hat. Okay, so we've got the 8 done, and then we're going to knit that final stitch. That's the end of the row. Okay, so now you can see you have this lovely crisscrossed elongated stitch, and it looks the same on both sides. And it's a very interesting way of doing something new. I hope you enjoyed this one. Thank you.